Hi, lovely people. You're welcome to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. In this video, we're going to be learning how to make this lovely, beautiful luxury gown. And it is a combination of Ankara and organdy fabric. This gown is called a Batwing gown. So this is why it's called a batwing. You can see the upper part where I have the opening where the sleeve came out from or the hand came out from. That's the batwing. And then below it, we have our gown just going down, and then we have our flare at the down part. This gown is a combination of organdy and Ankara fabric, and you can see I used the Ankara fabric to form strips and stitch them down on the organdy fabric. So this is really beautiful. This is something you would like to learn. This dress is giving the luxury vibe. So let's get right into the video. Thank you. So these are the materials we'll be using to achieve our batwing gown. And I have 3 yards of this organdy fabric. And then I also have my Ankara fabric, which we'll be using to form our strips and also the flare at the down part. Then I have my hemming gum. This hemming gum is very important. We're going to be using it to press down our strips. That's to use it to gum our strips to the fabric. You need this so that your strips can be straight and intact. So next we'll go ahead and fold our fabric. So here you can see I folded my fabric into two widthwise, meaning that I used the length of the fabric and I folded it into two to achieve the width. So right now here I have a width of 29 inches. My fabric is 58 inches long. So when you fold it into two, you're going to have 59 inches. So you can see both savages on this side. So you want to be sure that this will give you half of your shoulder measurement plus the desired sleeve length, because this is going to be a cut together with sleeve. Of course, we are making a bat wing. So having achieved the width, then next I'm going to be folding to achieve the length. The part that is facing me is the center front and the center back. So you can see I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two to achieve the length. So right now my fabric is folded into four in all, because we're going to be drafting for both front and back. So here the length of my fabric is 54 inches, but I need the length of this organdy to be 50 inches in all, so that my flare can take the remaining length. The full length of my client is 62 inches. So 62, I'm going to be subtracting my 50 inches from it. And that 50 inches is plus my sewing allowance of that joining allowance of half inch up and down. So that's 1 inch in total. So I'm going to be subtracting 49 from my 62 inches. So that will leave me with a remainder of 13 inches. That's what the length of my flare is going to be. So right now I'm going ahead to draw my starting line, which is the shoulder line. So having drawn my shoulder line, I'm going to mark 3 inches from the center front. Then I'll go to the side there and come down by 2 inches. This is to achieve my shoulder slant. I'll bring in my ruler and connect this point. So now we have our shoulder slant. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is from the shoulder line there, I'll come down by 30 inches. How did I come about my 30 inches? That's 5 inches below the hip line of my client. So this length is 5 inches below the hip line. That's to achieve our bat wing. I'm coming down by 5 inches below the hip line, and that's a total of 30 inches. So I'm going ahead to confirm my 30 inches so that I can have a straight line. So this is me going ahead to connect my markings. So here now we have our 30 inches mark, which is 5 inches below the hip line. So on this line, I'm going to enter quarter of the hip measurement plus 2 inches, and that is 15 inches in this case. The hip measurement is 13 when you divide by 4, so plus 2, that's 15 inches. I'm also going to enter the same measurement at the hem of this gown, and then I'll connect it from this point. So having connected the my from my 30 inches to the hem of the gown, the next thing we want to do is to draw our batwing. So at this point where I have my 30 inches after the measurement, can you see I'm placing my tape diagonally. I'm trying to create a curve around there. So I placed my tape diagonally and marked 1 inch. So you can see the curve I have now at that point. So I'm going to mark the curve all the way to the shoulder line. So you just want to use your free hand to do this. Can you see? So I'm just going to keep marking it till I get to the shoulder line. So this is the shape I want for my bat wing. Okay. So having done that, the next thing we want to do now is to enter the neck width and the neck depth. So I'm going to be marking a neck width of 3.5 for the back, neck width of 3.5, and then a neck depth of 2 inches for the back. So having marked my neck depth of 2 inches, I'm going to bring in my armhole curve and connect it like this. Just create the curve nicely. So here now I have the back neckline. So I'm going ahead to mark the front neck depth since we have our both front and back there at that point. So I'll mark the front neck depth of 6.5 inches. And then I'll use this part of my ruler to connect it. I want it to be a V-shaped neckline. So I haven't done that. Next thing now we want to do is to add ½ inch to the shoulder tip. That's to the shoulder line there that I'll be using to join both the front and the back shoulders. So I'm going ahead to add my ½ inch at that point. So I'll bring in my straight ruler and connect the point. So here now we have a ½ inch for joining our shoulders. So we are done with our markings. So I'll bring in my scissors and cut the back neckline first. The back is higher, so of course I'm going to cut it and then separate the back from the front before we cut the front neckline. So this is me just going ahead to cut the shoulder slant now, and I'm cutting on the ½ inch that I added for my seam allowance. So right now I'm going ahead to lift up the front neckline so that I can cut on the front neckline. So you can see I've separated the front from the back. I'm cutting on only the front neckline. You see, so now we have our front and back neckline. So next I'm going to go to the down part and begin to cut the shape. That's the down part here. So can you see? So now I've cut out the shape and I have my gown. You can see the batwing shape. So next we want to go ahead and cut our facing. So I'm going to be folding these pieces I got from the side of my gown to achieve the facing. So you're just going to fold your fabric into two and trace out the neckline to achieve your facing. So just like I'm doing, can you see my fabric is folded into two, and then I'm just going to go ahead and trace out the neckline. So you can see I'm tracing out my neckline. So the next thing we'll be doing is to cut the flare that will be attaching to the down part of this gown. So first we're going to take the measurement of the hem. Remember that we had 15 inches at the hem. I'll be using 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So 15 minus 1, that's going to be 14. And I have this 14 in 4 places. This is because the front and back are folded into two. So I'm going to multiply 14 by 4, and that will give me 56 inches. So meaning that the circumference of the hem of this gown is going to be 56 inches. I'm going to divide that 56 by 3.14. This is because I'm making a 180 flare, which is a half circle. So I'll divide it by 3.14, and that will give me 17.8. So that's going to be the radius of the flare. So already I mentioned that the length of the flare is going to be 13 inches. So 13 inches plus my sewing allowance of 1 inch, that's half inch to hem the down and half inch to turn the down, join the upper part of the flare to the gown. So that's 14 inches. So now we have the length of 14 inches. So we'll add this 14 inches to our 17.8. So that's about 18 inches. So we're going to say 18 inches plus 14, and that will give us 32 inches. So the length of our flare in total, including the radius, will be 32 inches. So now I'll bring in my Ankara and show us what to do. First, I'm going to measure 32 inches on the service of my wrapper, and then I'll mark the point where I have the 32 inches. And then I'll go ahead and fold over the 32 inches. That's to get 30 to fold over 32 inches in two places. So that will be a total of 64 inches. Can you see how I'm folding it into two? So I have 32 in two places. So once I folded it into two like this, I'm going to close it up like this. I'm going to fold it this way to achieve a triangle shape. So can you see the both savage where I have my 32 inches? So I'm folding it now to form a triangle shape. So now this is me taking my measurement. Can you see that I still have my 32 inches there? So you fold it now to form a triangle shape. That's how you cut your 180 flare. Okay. So having done this, I'm going to just place it on the table properly. And then next, I'm going to mark the radius of this flare. So you want to make sure that it's well arranged so that your flare will not be one side high and the other side low. So this is me just confirming my measurement, and you can see that I have exactly my 32 inches. You can see that the fabric on top is shorter than the entire fabric, and which is the length of my 32 inches. So next I'll go ahead and place my tip from the apex of the triangle and mark 17.8, which is the radius of our circle. So I'm marking my 17.8 round. Then next I'm going to mark the length of the flare. So you just want to connect the markings here. So okay, so the next thing we'll be doing now is to mark the length of the flare, and the length of this flare is going to be 14 inches. So you can see I'm placing my tape after the radius measurement. So I'm going to mark 14 inches round, and then I'll go ahead and cut it out. So the flare has been cut out, and this is what we have. So I'm just going to open it up so that we can see what we have. So can you see that we have a half circle? Of course, this is a very big half circle. So the next thing I will do is to bring in the strips that will be stitching on top of our gandhi, and I'll show us what to do next. So these are the Ankara strips I'll be using. As you can see, I have plenty of them on the table. So for the strip, I cut 2 inches in width of my Ankara fabric using the length of the Ankara, which is 45 inches. So I cut 2 inches each of plenty of my fabrics. And then I'm going ahead to fold half inch on the left and half inch on the right. So when you fold half inch on the left and half inch on the right for a 2 inches strip, you're going to be left with 1 inch. So you can see I went ahead to iron the half inch I folded. So as you iron, you bring in your wood to immediately you remove your iron, you place your wood. This will keep your strips intact so that even if you gather them just the way it is on the table right now, your strips of your crease line will remain intact, or the part you pressed will remain intact. That's what I'm trying to say. So you need this wood to be able to keep it in place, or anything that is smooth like an iron under it to keep it in place. So these are the strips, and the length of the strip is 45 inches. Remember that the length of our gown is 49 inches. That's about 50 inches plus our stitching allowance. So meaning that this Ankara fabric will not give us the length of our gown. So we need to join our strips together, and we're not going to be joining it just straight like the way we join normal things. We're going to be joining it diagonally like the way we join bias. So you just join it diagonally so that it maintains the shape and still relaxes well. So I'm going to bring in a strip and show us how to stitch them together diagonally. So you can see that I have my Ankara strip now in my hand, and then I'll open it up like this. So you can see how I'm placing it. I'm placing it in a crisscross manner. Okay, can you see? I'm placing it in a cross manner, and then I'm going to sew it diagonally. And you see, I'm just going to use my chalk to mark it. So I'm not joining it straight. I'm going to sew it diagonally. So at the end of the day, when I'm done sewing that part, it will now give me a straight fabric. Can you see? So just take note of the way I'm placing it. So you want to make sure you sew that. That's how we join our cotton. Most of the cotton bias we buy from the market. You can check your cotton bias. You will understand better what I am talking about. Okay, so you can see that I've joined so many of them, and this is going to give me the length I desire. So can you see what this looks like? When you join it, all you need to do is to trim out the excess. Okay, and you can see what it looks like after joining. So you won't even see the part that is joined. So that's why you don't want to join it straight. Make sure you are joining it diagonally. So with that being said, now I'm going to show us how to place our strips on top of the Ankara, on top of the organza fabric. You need to iron the front piece of your fabric, and then make sure that you get the center front just like you can see on the table. You can see my crease line is very obvious. We mesh iron it so that you have your center front. Okay, so you can see after ironing it, I have my center front. Then for your strip, you also get the midpoint of the strip. That's from the width of that 1 inch. So you get the midpoint so that you can place your strip evenly. You don't want your strip to be one-sided. Okay, so you want to make sure that the strip is well balanced at the V neckline so that it doesn't go to one side and then the other side is lacking. Okay, so you can see me pressing my strip. This is just to keep the crease line flat so that it's easy for my strips to stay at the center where I'm placing it. So next I'll bring in my hemming gum. Can you see? And my hemming gum is a 1 inch hemming gum. You want to make sure that the width of your hemming gum is not bigger, or is not bigger than the width of your strips. My strip is 1 inch strip, and you can see that my hemming gum is also 1 inch. So when you place the strip on top of it, it will completely cover the 1 inch hemming gum. So that way you will not have the hemming gum sticking out and making the clothes messy. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So now I've placed my hemming gum on the fabric. So I'll bring in my strip now and cover up this hemming gum. So you want to be very careful when you are doing this. You don't want it to shift. This will determine how straight your strips will be on top of your fabric. So I'm placing it, and you can see that everything, the strip is covering the hemming gum. So you're going to just place this carefully, and then I'll bring in my steam iron and then press it down. So this steam iron will release steam and melt that's dissolved the hemming gum. Okay, so I haven't placed it now. I'll go ahead and press it. So you just want to just leave it, drop the iron on it a little so that it releases steam. You want to make sure that it brings out steam so that it dissolves the hemming gum. So I'm just going to press this all the way to the end and show us the next thing to do. So as you can see, I have successfully gummed the first Ankara strip to my organdy fabric, and you can see that it is centralized. So this is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to stitch the Ankara on both the left and the right. You want to make sure to do this because if you just gum it and leave it, after some time when you start washing, it can begin to rip off. So this is just to keep it down intact so that everything is straight and nice. Then you can now stitch it down. It makes your work a lot easier than using pins to pin it down. So I'm going to show us how we're going to do the next one. That's why we started with the one in the middle, because you need it to be centralized so that you will have the same thing on the left and on the right. So as you can see now, from the center, from the strip I've placed already, I'm marking 1 inch away from that point. So I'm going to mark this 1 inch all the way down to the hem. So having marked my 1 inch, I'll bring in my hemming gum and place it 1 inch away from the first strip. So can you see? So I'm just going to place my hemming gum all the way down to the hem of our gown. And then I'll place over my Ankara fabric just the same way I did for the first one. And also use my steam iron to iron it down so that it can stick to our fabric. So I'll do that and show us what we have. So here we are. As you can see, I've placed the second strip and you can see what we have. So I'm going to keep repeating the same process, leaving the space of 1 inch and placing my hemming gum and then place my strip on it and iron till I fill up the whole gown. That's for both front and back, so which is what I've done already. So you can see my Ankara strips is everywhere and I repeated the same thing on the back. So can you see? And I've also gone ahead to stitch it. I've stitched my strips on the left and the right. This is to keep it intact. Can you see how neat my fabric is at the back and even on the right side? This is because I used hemming gum to gum it. Yes, it is time consuming, but it is worth the work because it will come out really beautiful when you are done with everything, just like mine is already coming out. So here I've also fixed my facings. Can you see? Here I fixed my facings for both front and back, and I've also notched the facings. So the next thing we'll do is to take this to my sewing machine and join both shoulders together. Now is to place them right side facing right side. That's the front facing the back. And then I'll go ahead and join the shoulders together. Can you see? I'll go ahead and join my shoulders together using the facing like this. I'll place the facing, that's right side facing right side like this, and then I'll flip my facing. So I'll stitch it down. This will help make this place neat. You don't want to just join it directly. So this is what I mean. I'll place it right side facing right side, and then I'll flip the facing to the wrong slash to this side, to the back side, and stitch it down on half inch. Repeat the same thing on the other side and then weave the shoulder. So after doing that, the next thing now I'm going to do, I'll come here to where the bat wing ends. Can you see this part that I have this curve? This is where my bat wing ends. Can you see? So now I've gone ahead to notch this point. This is because I will have this bat wing opened and then this part will be closed up, will be sewn like a gown. So this part is going to be open while this part will be sewn inside. So that is why I have this notch here. And I also have the same thing at this part. So what did I do? I used my 1 inch sewing allowance. I notched the 1 inch sewing allowance. This is because I'll be sewing this part all the way down. But before I go ahead and sew it, that's after I must have joined the shoulder, I'm going to use my cutting bias. Okay, so you can see here now I have my cutting bias. I'm going to use my cutting bias to sew this side. So I'll place my bias, that's after I must have joined the shoulder. I'll place my bias on the right side of the fabric like this, and then I'll sew it in a curvy manner following the shape like this all the way. Of course, by then this shoulder would have been joined together. So I'm going to sew it all the way and come back to this end where I have this knot. This is me cleaning off this part that is rough. So this is a way of sewing it to trim the side seams. That's all these parts that are rough here. You don't want to leave it like that. So this is me hemming the sides. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I'll come back and show us what to do. Right now, I've stitched the sides with my bias. Can you see? So I stitched it all the way to this end. You can see where I have my notch. Can you see? So I have my bias on this side, and you can see it stopped here also. I did the same thing on this side. You can see it stopped here, and then I stitched it all the way to this part. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to just go ahead and gum the facing. You can see how my facing is. So you don't want it to be coming out of the gown. Okay? So after gumming our facing, this is what I have. So the next thing now to do is to place the fabric right side facing right side so that I can stitch the side starting from the point where I notched. That's after the bat wing. So you want to make sure to place it correctly, and then I'm going to stitch from that 1 inch point that I notched. Can you see? So I'm going to sew it all the way down to the hem, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. Then I'll go ahead and join my flare and attach it to the hem. So this is me marking the seam allowance, which is 1 inch. I'm just going to mark it all the way down. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, and then I'll join my flare on 1 inch at the center back. That's, you remember that our flare is a 180 flare. So we'll join the sides, the two sides that are open together. I'll join them together and then show us how to sew it to the hem of our gown. I've stitched the sides. I've stitched the sides here. So you want to make sure that you start it in a curvy, as you sew it in a curvy manner, so that you can leave this part open. Can you see what it looks like on this side? So you want to just make sure that you do it in a curvy manner like this, and then also repeat the same thing here. Can you see what I have here on the right side? So now I'll go ahead and turn it out. So I haven't turned it out like this. This is the front side. So I'm going to fold it this way and get the midpoint. So I haven't notched the center here. I haven't notched the center. Now I have my center front and my center back. So here's the center back. I'm going to turn it to the back. So you can see this part where I notched is the center back. So I'll bring in my flare now. So you can see my flare. I've also joined the flare at the center. That's at the center here, at the opening here. You can see that I went ahead to just add pleats to the hem. This is actually to increase the length with about extra 2 inches so that it touches the ground well, the floor, to give it that fullness at the down part. So this is the right side of the gown, and then this is the flare. So I'm going to turn the flare now to the wrong side. Can you see? So I'm turning it now to the wrong side. This is the wrong side. Can you see? So that it will now be right side facing right side. I'll now wear it over the flare, over the gown. So then I'm going to pin the center back to the center back where I have it there. Can you see? And then I'll pin it this way. So can you see? So I'm just going to pin it over it. So I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew round. I'll be sewing round and I'll come back here. So by the time I'm done sewing, this is what I'll have now. The flare will now come down like this. Okay? I'm done sewing the flare to the hem of the gown. And now we're going to stitch the sides. Remember that the sides are still opened where our bat wing is. So I'm going to go ahead now and fold my fabric into two so that we can enter our measurement and stitch the sides together. So here I'm just going to make sure to arrange my fabric well so that everything is well aligned. You want to make sure that the bat wing, that's where you have the curve, is also aligning. I'm going to use my safety pin to secure it or to secure these points so that nothing shifts and let my measurement be intact. Okay, so this is me just arranging it. So I'll use my safety pin to pin the side where I have the bat wing, and then you can see this is the side here. So I'm just going to pin it, and then I have the center front and the center back at the other side. So once I'm done pinning it, the next thing I'm going to do is to enter the measurements. So I'm just going to mark from the center front there. I'm just going to mark quarter of the bust measurement plus 1 inch. So from that center front there, I'll mark quarter of the bust measurement plus 1 inch, like I earlier said. And then I'll come down from the shoulder line and mark the bust point. This is where my measurement will be starting from. Having marked quarter of the shoulder and bust measurement plus 1 inch for ease, so you can see me placing my tape at that point where I got my measurement, and then I'm coming down by 12 inches, which is the bust point. Okay, so that's where my stitch is going to start. So the remaining 12 inches up will be the sleeve opening where the hand will come out from. So from that point now where I have my 12 inches, I'll come down to the waistline and enter quarter of the waist measurement plus 1 inch also, starting from the shoulder line. Okay, so I also come down from that point. So here's the shoulder line. So quarter of the waist measurement plus 1 inch, and I'll repeat the same thing for the hip, quarter of the hip measurement plus 1 inch, and I'll make sure to align it into the part of the gown that I have at the down part after the batwing. Remember that at the knee, at the 30 inches, which is where the batwing started from, I marked quarter of the hip measurement plus 2 inches, and I've already used 1 inch to sew the side seams. So that means I'm left with exactly 1 inch. So meaning that my stitch will come and stop exactly at this point where the bat wing ends, which is quarter of my hip measurement or of the hip measurement plus 1 inch. So can you see I'm just connecting my lines from that point? Can you see? I'm just going to connect it also to the bust line, and then I'll take this to my sewing machine and stitch them together. I'll repeat the same thing for the other side, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch them together and show us the next thing to do. So I'm done stitching the sides, and this is what we have. My stitch is outside, and then we have our opening, the sleeve opening inside that the hand will come out from. I repeated the same thing on the other side. The stitch just aligns with the down part of the gown and everything blends up nicely. So you can see the second side. So you want to just make sure that is the hip measurement you enter at that 30 inches below the hip line so that everything just comes out nice. Not 30 inches below the hip line, sorry, 5 inches below the hip line. So we are almost done with this tutorial. I have this sugar flowers I'll be using to decorate this gown at the neckline area. So I'm going to just place them to the desired shape I want to have. I'm going to use my needle and thread, tack them down, and then finish beautifying this gown with our beautiful stones. And then I'll wear it on the mannequin so that we can see what we have. So if you have watched this video up to this time and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please, please, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe. Put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. And also share this video. Like it, please. Thank you and see you on the mannequin. Wow, 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 wow. Can you see what our gown looks like? It came out really, really beautiful. This is so beautiful. See our batwing sleeves, our flare, everything just coming out really nice and beautiful. Yes, like I said, it is time consuming, very time consuming. So when you are buying fabric to make this style and buying all your materials to make this style, please also buy patience if you don't have it. So it's time consuming, but you can see that it's worth it. It came out so beautiful. I enjoyed making this gown and I hope you also enjoyed watching this video. Please leave a comment. Don't just watch and go away. Just leave a comment. Say something nice. Thank you. Bye.